The world of Little Nightmares is as mysterious as it can be, with many questions still remaining unanswered, leaving us with only our wits and imagination to connect the dots and theorize the possibilities. Why is the world of Little Nightmares much larger than the children? Why are the children hunted constantly by all the perpetrators? Why do other characters resemble monsters of a nightmare, while the world of Little Nightmares closely resembles the world we live in? In today's video, that's exactly what we're going to explore and talk about. From this point onwards, the video will be filled with spoilers, so you've been warned. Hi folks, I'm R, your narrator, and without much further ado, let's get into the video. The first Little Nightmares game at first glance is reminiscent of the movie Coraline and Spirited Away, having the creepy looks of the movie Coraline and the hunger theme associated with Spirited Away. It's a unique yet familiar experience to say the least, providing us with moments of awe, shock, and disgust. The second game tells a different story, however, with many elements of the first game changing with the core essence remaining the same. The hunger or gluttony theme is gone now, with a new theme of TV addiction being introduced. The color palette used within the game is changed to a more blue and cold tone. New gameplay mechanics are introduced, and a completely different protagonist is introduced to us as well. The core essence of children being hunted by oversized antagonists still remains, and the cryptic backstory gets even further stretched in here, with more questions arising. What is the meaning behind the world of Little Nightmares, and what does it exactly portray? We can theorize certain aspects of the game to explain the events of the story, but looking outside of the box, the world of Little Nightmares corresponds to the real world we live in as a much bigger, over-exaggerated metaphor. Children are mainly innocent and have a big imagination. The parents naturally care for their children and protect them against adult-related matters, such as financial problems, suicidal tendencies, graphical violence, and gore, etc. But the children cannot fully be protected against this twisted, hostile world that we live in. Children get exposed to certain elements that they might not fully comprehend, and therefore their imaginations only go visually wild, blowing everything out of proportion. As a child, you visualize yourself very small and vulnerable while your surrounding and adult characters look much bigger. That is why the world of Little Nightmares is gigantic compared to the children we take control of. The surrounding might even seem intimidating and scary. Each character in Little Nightmares has a clear-cut role, as if they are only built for it with no other personalities and passions. The chefs are only seen cooking and sleeping. The janitor is only seen trapping children and monitoring them, while the guests are only eating with the lady deemed as an overseeing entity above everyone else. In Little Nightmares 2, the teacher is only a teacher but nothing else. So is true with the doctor and the hunter. They are given these specific roles and do not act any other way. Children tend to see the world this way. They do not yet know or understand that teachers are normal people who have other passions, aspirations, and dreams. That they also eat and possibly even hate being a teacher but do it because they have no other choice. Doctors and hunters are normal people as well, with different interests. Children define these people by their roles and do not look beyond whom these characters might be. Also things that children do not yet fully comprehend, for example the doctor's responsibilities, the hunter's gory and graphic hobbies, the teacher's swinging mood behavior, seem completely alien to the children, leading to them use their imaginations for the worst, usually. Looking at the hunter as a bloodthirsty entity with terrifying hobbies such as skinning and taxidermy, thinking that he probably skins people and does taxidermy on them too. The teacher has swinging moods, having a smiley face on the outside, but behind the closed doors, she's hostile and vicious, punishing the children and even killing them. As students are supposed to be seen and not heard, if they're heard, they will never be seen again in her domain. That's how the children perceive teachers, or at least the horrible ones. Two-faced individuals with non-blinking eyes and overstretching necks, observing every single movement of children. The doctor, on the other hand, has abilities to bring dead to life. The doctor carries out unethical experiments and again, like the teacher, wields a creepy smiley face, but in reality is as hostile as it can be. The patients look like mannequins, with the torso excluding any limbs or head, attached to masks and prosthetics. These patients are as still as mannequins can be under the light, but who knows what these creepy human lookalikes do in the dark. A child's imagination can only go that wild. Children are often scared of mannequins and do often imagine if they're alive. But why don't they move under close inspection? It must be the light. The light stops them from moving. If the light is taken off, they sure will start moving around, trying to catch you. The theme of the first game is about overeating to the point of bursting. The guests are brought to the mall to overindulge in eating without stop. We as adults understand that obesity is a major concern in developed countries, with over 30% of population suffering from it. Obesity is caused by addiction to food if there's no other underlying cause. In a child's perspective, obese people are seen as monsters who eat with no end. They consume and consume until they burst like a balloon. The children's imagination is a strong weapon which can be used against them, as seen in Little Nightmares. The obese guests eat anything thrown to them. They even consume the protagonist if she happens to get close enough to them, as they have lost their mobility and depend on crawling to move about. It turns out that these guests are welcomed in the mall to then be exploited by the lady by paying the ultimate price: their own lives. Isn't that how it also works in our societies? More and more multi-branched organizations open to just feed people junk as much as possible for themselves to get richer. The guests or the consumers end up paying the ultimate price of obtaining variety of diseases which could eventually lead to death. Little Nightmares is therefore an over-exaggerated reality of the world we live in. The theme of the second game revolves around TV addiction, or basically screen addiction. You might have thought that only 30 to 40% of population suffers from obesity, therefore you must be safe. But a bigger and more detrimental addiction is to screens. Almost everyone is addicted to screens now. If not TV, then laptops or computers. If not them, then your mobile phones. I actually did a bit of experiment and made a poll asking if you folks take your phones with you when you go to the restroom. And unshockingly, majority of you voted that you do take your phones with you to the restroom. Little Nightmares 2 through the eyes of children shows how conditioned we are to screens, to the point that we get closer and closer to them until the mysterious eye monster residing in the TVs suck us in and deform our faces. And very interestingly, the viewers are absolutely harmless as long as they are occupied by their screens. As soon as the screens turn off, they become extremely hostile. It might suggest how the parents become angry when children interrupt their TV time. As adults, we are constantly busy with everyday tasks: work, cooking, doing taxes, managing bills, calling different organizations, and you count it. We barely get any time resting, even for 1 or 2 hours. And if those few precious hours are interrupted, we get quite grumpy, let alone if we are addicted to something and separated from them, especially when you have limited time to use them after a long day. Therefore, the viewers are parents or family members perceived through the eyes of children who get quite upset or even angry when interrupted while watching their TV. It could also be us, as we find it even difficult going to the restroom without our phones. Hunters are seen as hostile and terrifying creatures through the eyes of children. The hunter's hobby involves death, traps, blood, skin, and guns. This looks even more petrifying when seen by a child. A child's imagination can get even wilder when confronted by these events, as their comprehension is not fully evolved. A child sees hunters as bloodthirsty individuals who seek death and shoot anything at sight. They have set traps everywhere and are motivated by death. They have skin of dead things hanging about everywhere in their workplace and could quite possibly kill you if they see you. They are relentless at chasing you as well. They stalk their prey until they capture or kill them. As I discussed before, some teachers are seen as horrible creatures by children. It only takes one to grow and walk a mile in their shoes to realize what a difficult job it can be. Nonetheless, some teachers crave control and find joy in the suffering and humiliation of children. The teacher in Little Nightmares 2 seems to wear a mask, with an always present smile and wide-opened eyes. The teacher's smile only remains on the mask and is quite shallow, as behind the closed doors, the teacher is horrible to the students. She punishes them severely or even makes them vanish if students do not conform to the arduous and ridiculous demands of the teacher. Or in other words, kills them. The teacher does not allow the students to speak and is troubled by children who want to think freely and break free from the confines of the teacher. These students are of course seen as rebellious and troublesome students and therefore get chased and eaten by the teacher. The teacher also has a long neck which follows the students every step, observing them very closely. Isn't that how some teachers are seen by children? Observing students and noticing every single move as if they have superpowers. They also tend to form the children how they please and see fit, to conform to the social construct, destroying the free mind and dreams of children and punishing any child who thinks differently, so that everyone will grow to become another brainwashed, empty-minded viewer. The doctors are often busy with older patients, treating them and reviving them. A profession that seems very mind-boggling to a child, something that only an individual with superpowers would be able to do. The patients seem like mannequins, with all of them having prosthetics attached to them. In the eyes of children, patients with prosthetics might be the result of the doctor experimenting on them, mutilating them and attaching prosthetics and mannequin parts to them. The job in general seems very confusing, and the imagination of a child makes things seem terrifying in an effort to explain what the doctor does with the patients, or in other words, mannequins as seen through the eyes of a child. What are your thoughts about Little Nightmares as a metaphor to our real life? What other aspects of the game resemble real-life events that might seem scary through the imagination of a child? In your own experience, what did you find terrifying and scary as a child? Let me know by leaving a comment down below. For more videos, stay tuned right here by hitting the subscribe button and the notification bell. You can also follow me on Twitter, where you can contact me directly. It's been your host Star. Till the next video, have a fantastic day.